Jerry Jamison is the guest, and this book is nothing short of what the living hell and amazing at the same time. 39 years, 23 aliases, 28 arrests in 20 cities, and nearly a dozen imprisonments. Robert Spears is at the heart of a book that is entitled Vanishing Act, a crashed airliner, fake death, and backroom abortions. And Jerry Jamison joins us this morning. I wanted to make sure that we were clear that Robert Spears and not Jerry Jamison is the one who had 39 aliases. I want to make sure that we're
thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Our author thanks you.
Yeah, and by the way, he's an award-winning advertising copywriter. He's got more than 30 national writing commendations during his career. Following those years as a copywriter, he turned to a career as a novelist, more than 30 books in a wide range of genres. He's been the recipient of numerous national awards, including a national commendation alongside Senator Edward Kennedy for his service to underserved communities. He is, he's a Westmont College alum with a degree in sociology and currently lives with his wife in Chula Vista, California. Hey, Jerry, welcome as our first book guest here on Road Gang Radio.
Well, thank you. It's quite an honor then to be here.
It's an honor to have you. This is huge. Okay, so Jerry, I want to start here. This book read more like fiction because it's so hard to believe one person could pull off so many schemes using so many, having so many identities and get away with it for so long. But with the lack of technology, I guess it was certainly easier back then, perhaps. But anyway, what I want to dive into first. So I've always been drawn to natural remedies and the mind-body connection, things like breathwork, energy work, healing from the inside out, etc. So first of all, the word, is it naturopathy? How do I say that?
Naturopathy.
Naturopathy. Thank you. Okay. But in his world, it was almost like a mask to cover up some really dark stuff. So what I want to know, he was Dr. Robert Spears was a naturopath. And from what I understand, that can mean anything from herbal medicine to homeopathy to talk therapy. So what exactly was Spears doing under that title? Was he ever helping people, do you think? And you talk about this in the book, but for our audience, or was it always a front for the bigger cons?
Well, to understand Dr. Spears, you have to realize he is wholly and completely a con man. There is no other substance to Dr. Spears other than an opportunity or an angle to con someone in some way out of their money. So there is no true substance to him. In fact, he never even knew his real name. There was never a time in his life where he knew his real name because since childhood, since his earliest memories in Oklahoma, let's just say that his mother had a lot of boyfriends. And so she just moved from place to place to place, anyone that would put her up and she would live with for a while. And she had this habit of changing his name at every stop, which might mean every month. So he just continued to get, none of those are his aliases, by the way. Those were all criminal aliases. But he never really went to school, elementary school or high school or anything. So I think he grew up believing what people do is they just change who they are with every stop. And that tells us a lot about him because that's exactly what he did. He just became a new persona when he felt like either had to escape something or it fit him best in his world. In the course of this long career, 40 years of crime, he becomes a naturopath. A naturopath is, probably for the listeners, the best way to think about it is kind of a holistic approach to medicine. What's important to know is in the 40s and the 50s when he was operating, there were the same number of naturopaths as there were medical physicians in America. So the membership of the American Medical Association and the American Naturopathic Association was roughly the same number. And that was largely because coming out of, say, the Depression era and all that, this was when there was the introduction of vaccines, the introduction of medicines that were based on chemicals, and by and large, people didn't trust that. So they had more trust in their grandmothers' and mothers' remedies, and so naturopaths, followed that line of thinking for them. So he became a naturopath. Now, I should say, to become a naturopath, you had to have a college degree. You had to have a medical license at the time. He neither attended college for one day, nor attended medical school for one day. He simply purchased diplomas. He purchased a medical degree for $500 out of the trunk of a car, his diploma in Maryland, and set himself up as a naturopath, a doctor. He moved to Florida, and this is kind of an interesting part of understanding him. He moved to Texas. He really just kind of researched all the states, realized that Texas was the only state in the United States where you could transfer a medical license without having to become recertified, having to prove that you were a doctor, a medical doctor. By the way, he put MD after his name, so he actually elevated himself in that regard too. All of his stationery had MD after his name. So he moves to Texas, but the reason he moves to Texas, along with the fact that he can transfer his license, and once you become licensed in Texas, you are licensed forever. So it's never can be questioned again. So he goes there, and I have copies, ironically, copies of his actual advertisements in the Dallas Morning News when he had set up his clinic, and he was advertised as an OBGYN. And as his ads read, a specialist in female problems. And the female problems was code for abortion. And that was all he ever was an abortionist.
It's interesting, too, because the book ends up taking the form of, there's a structure to it that is interesting because while it is his life story is contained inside of the book focuses on one critical moment in time, one that actually has been looked at, but never through the filter of him. And you brought up the idea of him going from place to place. You know, as children, we learn language very, very early. The pattern of who we are gets set there. And that's the thing about him, too, is that he becomes a master of becoming, that he is able to kind of become whoever he needs to be for the people that he is kind of engaged with. The other thing about the book that I found fascinating was that it reminds us, like the show Mad Men does, that the past is literally a science fiction world. That the idea that you could simply pick up a fraudulent shingle, move it over to another state, and have it become a legitimate one. Because that's the other thing, too. We can't conceive of a country that he exists in anymore because the idea that once he gets that Texas medical license, he's got it. He's a doctor. I mean, he's not really. We understand what you're saying. But it locks him in, and it allows him, because as Lindsay said about the inability to check stuff, national data banks, all of that kind of stuff doesn't exist. People still trust their hometown doctor and all that. And he parlays that. The problem is that the more places he goes, the more people he's running from, which means the ability to cover himself up and reinvent himself one more time. The stakes get bigger each time. And this is maybe the biggest moment of how he actually reinvents himself. He does it on the souls of 42 people in an airplane, correct?
Yeah, it's a tragic end. In many ways, Dr. Spears, if this was a movie, first of all, it would be,
and it should
very
be
much. Thank you. Tell that to Netflix, who's looking at the treatment right now.
I will.
I should point out that the other reason he went to Texas, and I'll get back to your question in a second, but was because this was the 40s and the 50s was the oil boom in Texas, immense wealth there, and there were a lot of secretaries that were getting pregnant during that time. And he actually moved there knowing that market was both plentiful and profitable. And he charged $5,000 per abortion in the 1950s.
Wow.
$50,000 today. And as a result, he became very wealthy very quickly. I had a beautiful two-story brick home, a southern mansion-type home in the most exclusive neighborhood of Dallas at the time. Had a wife, two beautiful children, was in the social circles, threw garden parties. all of that, which goes back to your earlier point that once he's accepted, he is accepted. Not only in the medical community, but he's accepted in the social structure of the 1950s in Texas, and that might have been the most important thing for him because he is beyond question. He's beyond reproach at that point, and so he makes a very, I don't know if unusual move, I'd say a greedy move. He decides that he wants to go into partnership. So he's doing very, very well as is. Books up to 7 to 8 abortions per day during this time. So you could do the math, but you can also morally and socially just realize what's going on in America at that time. At a time, when this issue has resurfaced, obviously, we see that need never goes away, or that demand, I guess. So he makes a decision to move to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, to one of the enclaves in Hollywood, and goes into partnership with another man who does exactly what he does, except this other individual, whose name was Loomis. And Loomis is on staff. He's an employee of MGM Studios, and he is the official abortionist for MGM.
Good
and
Lord,
during his
title.
career, it was not his title, actually. Actually, oddly enough, his title was The Flesh Sculptor. Wow. And he was a title I don't think you want on your business card either, by the way.
No.
But what he was is he was the guru of fitness in the 30s, 40s, and 50s when MGM would take starlets, ingenues, and they needed them to have perfect busts and waists and long legs. They needed to walk correctly. They needed to be athletic. The men needed to learn how to play tennis. They needed to be tanned. They needed to be fit. They would put these couples together, ingenues and the young stars, and have them parade down red carpets and be photographed at Ciro's and all of that to promote MGM, often gay men, by the way. And they were producing this perfect group of young men and women. And again, some irony in that because this is the late 30s and early 40s, which is exactly what was happening in Germany at that time. So MGM is really kind of creating this perfect picture of humanity. What did not fit into that picture was pregnancy. Either pregnancy that was a single woman, or for a large part, pregnancy of a married woman. And so they had someone that took care of that. And I came across this. First of all, I was doing research for over a year on a particular actress, a golden era actress that I'm doing a piece on. And I noticed, I read over 10,000 movie magazines for that particular project. 10,000. I mean, there was just a proliferation of movie magazines. But during this time, all the magazines kept referring to an epidemic of appendectomies that was happening during the time.
Wow.
And of course, appendectomies were abortions. And this one man, Loomis, did these and then went into partnership with Dr. Spears with the idea that Loomis could bring the celebrities and he could bring the wealthy oil men. And
Jerry,
so they set up shop in Los Angeles.
It's almost like when you say Dr. Spears, I have to giggle because even using that word, the word doctor in front of him is a joke, right? I mean, a bit. And I'm curious if to you, Jerry, his choice to be a naturopath, and then as well as what he was doing, it's like his desire to play God or to gain trust without the rules and the checks of traditional medicine. So is that the definition to you, Jerry, of psychopath? And is that what drew you to this story, because I'm curious at what point you realized, and then we want to shift because we want to talk about of course, the airplane crash here. But
Sure.
at what point did you realize, Jerry, that this was more than an article? This was more than a small featured story, that this actually had legs to be a full book and now potentially even a movie? What was the hook in that where you knew that there's a lot more here to unpack?
Yeah, and that's a great question. First of all, I came across the story, knew nothing about the story. Really, nobody knows anything about the story. It completely disappeared. I came across the story. I owned an advertising agency for 40 years, and I was actually doing research for a campaign that we were going to do for a client, and I wanted it to be a retro vintage campaign. And so just to familiarize myself for advertising in the 40s and 50s, I just went on eBay and bought a stack of magazines, Life magazine, Time magazine, Popular Mechanics. I just wanted to see what the typefaces were and the vibe of it was and what the writing was like. And I was looking at a Life magazine, just flipping through the pages, looking at ads, and I turned the page and it says, "Man downs airliner to fake death." And it was just a stunning headline. And that's how I became interested in it. I just started to. There was nothing on this story, so I really went back through all the newspapers, hundreds, thousands of newspapers, to find anything that could be found on it. It was a huge challenge because of the aliases. It's not like you could, if you search for O.J. Simpson, you get everything on O.J. Simpson, but that's not true. And this was not searching like Googling. This is looking through newspapers.
36
and
aliases,
all of a sudden,
right?
You would find a guy that did something.
Is it 39?
And I would cross-reference that with Leavenworth's records or Alcatraz's records and start to pick up, wait, this is the same guy.
Is that...
No idea the breadth of the story.
I mean, at some point, Jerry, you must have had a chart on your wall. You must have just had a giant chart on your wall, all of it leading back to Dr. Spears. Just this almost a spider. It's like a parlor of spiders. I mean, in the sense that he has a sack of eggs that he just unleashes across a web that he simply enmeshes all these people in. I mean, and it goes back to Lindsay's question. This is pure psychopathy, right? I mean, this is beyond sociopathy because, a sociopath to some degree, often will have a plan, often has a structure. He's just making this up as he goes along. At each little obstacle, he then just shuffles off and goes someplace else because you open the book up with a horrifying story about $495 missing that I was like, this is where we begin, which is crazy. I don't want to get into that. Let people read the book, but let's go back to Lindsay's other thing that she was getting at, which of course is the plane crash. How does one down a plane? In the
and we're not here to give instructions, by the way.
Yeah.
We're not suggesting this. We do not condone it. This isn't a play-by-play, folks.
That's a nice disclaimer. I have to.
Thank you.
Thank you. We endorse none of this. We love Jerry's book. We don't love the man at the middle of it.
Right.
Go on, Jerry. Please continue.
Well, just the last time we were talking about where he was at, he was in Los Angeles. He performed an abortion there that was horrific. It was on a 22-year-old elementary school teacher who would lose her job if she was pregnant at the time. So she gets an abortion at a seaside motel where Dr. Spears met her and performed an abortion. He used, instead of procedural instruments, he used a chemical. He injected a chemical in her, which turned out to be lye, and it melted her insides. And she was rushed to UCLA Medical Center, and she, the first person of all time of his career, was the first one that ever said his name. Up to that point, no one, in the many botched abortions that he did, no one ever turned him in, primarily because the laws in those days, and this is barbaric to think about, but it was the woman who broke the law. The man could pay for it. The man could set it up. The man could be behind it all. But if a woman said, I'm bleeding to death and I had an abortion, she will go to prison. So no woman ever came forward on that until this woman did. And when she did, he was promptly arrested by a group known as the Abortion Squad in LAPD that was put together with Commissioner Parker, who set out to wipe out this blight in his city. And he was arrested. As soon as he was arrested, he made bail. And the story of the plane starts with him making bail. And when he does, he makes bail. He calls up his very best friend who's in Tampa, Florida. And by this, I need to say they were very close friends. They were best men in each other's weddings. They'd known each other for 30 years, vacationed together. Their families were together. And he flies to Tampa, says, I've got this great opportunity, business opportunity in Dallas, Texas. How about you drive there? I have tickets. I'll fly back. And we'll meet tomorrow in Texas, and we're going to start this new business. His friend is thrilled at this. His name is Al Taylor. Al Taylor is thrilled at this, and they're meeting at a coffee shop in the Tampa International Airport where the waitresses remembered them clearly because they were laughing and having a good time like good friends do. And Al Taylor says at the last minute, man, my neck is so sore. I was in a car accident a couple of weeks ago. My neck is killing me. And Dr. Spears says, you know what? You take my plane ticket, which you could do in the 1950s. You take my plane ticket, give me your keys, your registration, your license, and your wallet, and I'll drive your car over there, and we'll meet in Texas. The only thing I want to ask you to do is I've got a package here. It's cash, so don't lose it. But as soon as you land, you need to take this to my wife. She needs this cash. She says, no problem. He gets on the plane, and 22 minutes later, it explodes over the Gulf of Mexico. It sinks to the bottom of the Gulf, and it's never been recovered because it's so deep.
Jerry, I'm going to stop you there because the obvious question here is how dumb was this Al? Be like, yes, take my wallet, take everything. God bless him. But he trusted a friend. It goes back to the psychopath thing again, where he, as you've mentioned, they're yucking it up. They're laughing in a restaurant, all the while knowing he's about to perform this heinous act toward one of his best friends. We are talking right now. The story is crazy. We're talking with Jerry Jamison. The book is Vanishing Act, a crashed airliner, faked death, and backroom abortions. You can find it anywhere you get your books. It'll be up on our website as well. This segment of our Sleeper Cab library with our author here and friend Jerry Jamison is brought to you by Shady Rays. You can head on over to shadyrays.com. I'm wearing my aviators. I always do. They're on my head now. I'll be wearing them as I drive away today. They've got lost and broken protection on all their shades. Really killer shades, a pair for everybody, men, women, kids. They've even got snow goggles, prescription, and golf glasses as well. Check them out, shadyrays.com. Jerry, so that's the thing. I mean, it's true. It's going on again. He's yucking it up. He's having a great time, knowing he's about to move on and kill his best friend, basically. So again, we come back to psychopaths. So now you mentioned that Netflix is looking at this. We're gonna pray it gets picked up. Who in their right mind could play such a psychopath in your head that could play Dr. Robert Spears here?
I have thought so much about that, and the challenge of that is that every segment of his life for 40 years is equally fascinating. So I don't know if this is, can you find an actor you can age that much, or do you really need to find 4 actors? I mean, I think that's that'd be the challenge of this book. I mean, most criminals are known for an event, and most certainly Spears is known for, or will be known for, crashing this plane. But really, the chapters of the book that precede it are as mind-bending as all the previous ones. As a con man, your jaw drops at the things he was able to do, effortlessly too, and with tremendous flair. I mean, one of the judges that sentenced him said to him at his sentencing, Mr. Spears, you are the best bad guy I've ever met. I mean, he was charismatic, he was exciting, and people loved him. He was a model prisoner. I mean, he was just a dynamic human being.
And
so, he's an incredible personality. I'd love to know who could play him myself.
By the way, he was ever who you needed him to be. There is a very tiny connection between your book and this show. This show is born off the Road Gang, which was WWL 870's overnight show for a long time. The first report we get in the book of the crash happening over the Gulf of Mexico comes on the overnight jazz show on WWL 870 AM, which, by the way, I was reading and it just perked me up. I said, oh my God, there's our old digs, where all of this, the tradition you're on today, got started. Jerry, thank you so much for making the time for us, by the way. It's great to have you. You have any socials you want people to go to check you out?
You know, if they just go to my website, jerryjamison.com. Jamison's Jamison. I've also written 30 novels. So I was really a fiction novel writer before this until I stumbled on the story. And of course, this is stranger than fiction. So
Thank you, Jerry. Best of days, and thank you for being the first guest in the Sleeper Cab Library on Road Gang Radio, continuing the tradition of over a decade. Thank you, Jerry. Best of luck.
Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.